Hello, you guys, and welcome back to Mystical Visions. So, the day I'm recording this is May 19th, and today, as it so happens, Jupiter, the planet of wisdom and expansion, is moving into Gemini, and it is a transit that will last until October 2025. And today, I kind of wanted to see what this transit is going to do for you. More specifically, what area of your life you will see an expansion in, since we are talking about Jupiter. So we're going to take a look at which area of your life is going to go through an expansion, what the outcome of this expansion will be, what energy you will embody going in and coming out of this cycle, and also just some advice on what energy you are best off embodying through the expansion, and just some advice. So, as always, I've gone ahead and pre-shuffled your cards. For pile 1, we have an amethyst stone. Pile 2 is a little opalite moon. For whatever reason, I was called to keep it upside down today. Don't ask me why, I couldn't tell you. And for pile number 3, we have a citrine. So, as always, I'm going to give you guys some time to sit with these cards, see which one calls to you. Timestamps for each group are in the description below. If you enjoy this video and it resonates for you, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps the channel out a lot. And without much further ado, I will see you at your pile. Pile number 1, hello. If you guys chose the amethyst, then this is your reading about where in your life you're going to find expansion during this Jupiter and Gemini transit. So the way I've arranged it is this half of the reading is going to tell us what energy you're coming in with, which areas of your life you're going to see an expansion in, and potentially why. Okay, this side is going to tell us what energy you're going to leave with, what the outcome of these transits are going to be, and what you're going to embody as you work through the rest of this transit. And then we'll take a look at what energy you're being called to embody to make this transit easier, and also some advice. And you guys actually got 2 of both sets of oracle cards, so don't tell the other groups, okay? So let's dive into what part of your life you're going to see expansion in due to this Jupiter transit. First, we have justice, and that is clarified by the 7 of Cups. All right, so the area of your life where you're going to find a lot of expansion is finding balance between what you see as reality versus actual reality. So a lot of the times we can be caught up in illusions, we can be caught up in programming and things that do not serve us, belief systems that really don't serve us, and that can leave us feeling quite imbalanced in the sense of it's, there's so much going on in our lives. There is so much going on in the world, and a lot of the times that can make us almost forget what we're made of. What we're really here for, what our purpose in life is, what the whole purpose of life is. And you might find that lately you've been really caught up in the illusion of it all. So in these few, I want to say 5 months or so, you're really going to see that you're starting to find a little more balance between the external and the internal worlds. So you might find that your inner peace is no longer disturbed by the world outside. And in fact, you're even able to sort of feel a feeling inside and then project it out into the external world. And that might actually really help you sort of really tap into your power and also separate yourself from the physical world around you and potentially even embody your highest self some more. So next we have the Chariot, and that is clarified by the World. Beautiful. So there is a lot of forward motion, and also just a more wholesome sort of higher perspective. That's it. That's exactly what you're going to see from this transit. You'll find that you have experiences in the next 5 months or so that really help you switch your mind from, whoa, that was some furniture upstairs. I'm sorry about that, if the mic caught that. But you'll really step away from this small perspective and really start to embody a much higher, more well-rounded view of the world around us. And let's take a look at what energy you're coming into this transit with. Now, I am not going to read reversals for this, just because these cards like to spit. Okay, well, maybe I am. Maybe I am going to read. So this is the King in reverse. And I'm not really married to the idea of it being in reverse, but let's see what the book says. So this is number 12, if I have my Roman numerals correct. I am not Roman, so I wouldn't know for sure. So the king, the ruler, the commander, the emperor. The king presides over it all. Through the lens of the king, we assess the state of our land, make decisions, and rule accordingly. Therefore, the king must be thoroughly and regularly vetted so as to avoid corruption. There is not much middle ground. Something of the king as the ultimate expression of the ego, yet the great kings of mythology and history serve from an ego-less place. When light, benevolence, divine leadership, service, nobility. When dark, oppression, misuse of power, corruption. So you might be stepping into this transit from either a place of recognizing your power, and not just your power, but the responsibilities that come from being who you are. Because when we are capable of attaining high levels of consciousness, a lot of the times we forget that that also comes with very important duties. And so you might be stepping into this transit quickly becoming aware of your responsibilities towards the collective, towards yourself, towards your immediate loved ones, your immediate family, your friends, and that kind of thing, or just your community in general. Alternately, you might be stepping in from a position of recklessness, of ego, of almost diminishing your power in order to avoid said responsibilities, where you might feel like it's really not worth it to be conscious, to be powerful, to be enlightened, if it comes with so much work, you know? But with 3 of these 4 cards being major arcanas, it really, really tells me that you have no choice. You have no choice. You were brought on this planet with a very specific purpose in mind, and there is absolutely nothing you can do to run away from it permanently. You might be able to take lots of detours, and the universe will support these detours, but you cannot escape your purpose, because that's why you came here. And I know that sounds ominous and scary, but it really shouldn't be, because what we're looking at is the ability to really create difference on this planet when you're able to, first of all, separate the external world from the internal, And when you're able to really project your inner world out into the physical 3-dimensional reality, you step into a level of power where you have to be so conscious about what you think, about what you consume, about what you put out there, what you create through your words and actions and consciousness. And that's not easy, Pal One. It's not. And which is why they say heavy lies the head that wears the crown. It's not just because of the state responsibilities of royalty, but it is also the fact that their consciousness, whoa, there is so much noise today, guys. But the consciousness of these royal citizens really does have a massive impact on the world around them and how they are perceived and how things function. And you might find that you might step into that sort of a role for your local community or for your family unit or whatever you identify with. And therefore, you're really going to have to lean into this king energy as opposed to escaping it. That's interesting. I did not think this reading was going to go that way. So let's now take a look at what the outcome of this transit is going to be. What happens once you've learned these lessons and once you've worked through this energy? What is the outcome for Pile 1? We have the Knight of Coins in reverse. And that is clarified by the Knight of Wands. All right. I think that's a pretty clear message that you are no longer going to be sort of faffing about. You're no longer going to be waiting for external validation in order to really pursue the things you want to pursue. But also you're no longer afraid of making moves. You're now allowing your heart to lead. You're allowing your solar plexus center to lead. You're no longer afraid of, worst case scenarios. You're stepping into a time, per one, where you're building an instinct through these 5 months so that moving forward, you can trust that instinct to make the right choices. You can trust that your inner guidance will not fail you. You can trust that your inner voice knows better than the physical world around you. You're no longer you're no longer biding your time. That's the word I was looking for. You're no longer biding your time. You're no longer waiting around hoping that there will be a sign that you can move forward and that it's safe. You're no longer overly concerned with safety and being correct. That's what I'm getting to. So, beautiful. You're definitely stepping into a more assertive energy. You're stepping into a time in your life where just because you want to is plenty reason for you to go ahead and do something. And you're no longer concerned with the outcome, truly. Because the outcome is determined by your conviction, by your internal dialogue. And you're starting to trust that no matter how you feel inside, it will be projected out. So if you can consciously program your internal monologue and your inner narrative in order to create the best case scenario, then you're pretty much guaranteed that that is what will sort of manifest in the world around you, right? So it's no longer a thing of being a slave to fortune. It's no longer a case of worrying about how are things going to turn out if I go ahead and take a leap of faith. You're now in a place where life, reality is bending around your will. The universe is conspiring to bring into fruition whatever you project, whether it's good or bad. One piece of advice I want to give you, and this has nothing to do with the reading, but this is something I've found really helps when you find your energy ascending to a level where every frequency you put out there is starting to manifest. One thing you want to keep in mind is to always add a little cachet to everything you ask for. Always say this or something better for the highest good of myself and everyone involved in the process. Because that way it's almost like a cheat code. It's almost like insurance against accidentally manifesting something you didn't want simply because your frequency doesn't quite match your desired outcome yet. So when you put it out there that, hey, this is what I'm asking for, but universe, feel free to freestyle it if you have anything better in mind. It kind of opens up the possibilities way beyond what we can see with our very limited human perspective. So next we have the Three of Swords in reverse. And that is clarified by the Knight of Cups in reverse. Interesting. You have three knights and two of them are in reverse. And the one that is upright is the fastest moving of them all, which is interesting. But one message that I am really, really seeing loud and clear with these two cards is that whether or not people express that emotion will no longer affect you. You might be someone who is quite expressive, quite emotionally responsive, reactive, and just out there. And you might be surrounded by people who are quite closed off. And in the past, that might have hurt you. Or just things that people tell you, the ways in which they express their emotions might have hurt you in the past. But you're finally stepping into a time where you are no longer heartbroken by what people say, particularly people who love you or people you're in relationships with, whatever kinds of relationships. You're no longer emotionally dependent on the things that they say, the messages that they bring, essentially. You're no longer worried about having a big emotional response to things that people say because you're no longer concerned with the outcome. You're no longer obsessing over how things will turn out or, how does this person think of me or where do I end and the world begins, like we saw here with the Seven of Cups. You're very much stepping into a position of almost taking charge of your own life, of taking the reins on the horse yourself. Because, okay, look, in both of these cards, in the Knight of Coins and the Knight of Cups, do you see how neither of these guys is really holding the reins on the animal that they're riding? Traditionally, this knight would be on a horse as well, but they're not really guiding the horse to move forward with any urgency whatsoever, or in this case, a cow or a bull. But in this card here with the Knight of Wands, you can very clearly see that he is the one driving the horse forward. Now, if you were to take this as a metaphor for your life being the horse and you being the rider, it's very clear. It's very clear that you're stepping into a time now where you decide what direction your life takes. You're no longer concerned with what people might think of it. You're no longer worried about, oh, if I make the wrong choices, everything's going to fall apart. No, there might be temporary discomfort, But you're not very concerned about that because you know that no matter what, you will always land on your feet again. So what energy are you embodying once you've worked through this transit? We have Thanatos. I don't know which way up this card is supposed to be because these last few cards in this deck are kind of weird. Thanatos. Interesting. So let's go ahead and read this. I'm not even going to attempt to guess what number this is, but I think it might be 73. Don't quote me on that though. Thanatos, death. Ooh, interesting. So this is essentially the death card in this deck. It is tempting to oversimplify death and sum it up as transformation, but the true archetypal resonance of Thanatos cannot be easily assimilated or contained. Death is ongoing and omnipresent, an eternal response to the gift of birth. It leaves a mark of ash upon our hearts, signifying we have touched the cusp of the underworld and will return to the land of the living eventually, with more compassion and wisdom to share. One who has faced the annihilation of Thanatos can face anything. When this card appears, it signifies an initiation into the underworld. When light, grieving, mourning, bearing witness to all that is. When dark, fear or insensitivity to old age, illness, the dying. So you might come out of this transit feeling a lot more compassionate, not just towards the world around you, but also to yourself, to your past version who was so afraid and so overly concerned with everyone's opinions of them. And you might truly go through like a tower moment, a death moment, where you're sort of really looking at the world through a whole new set of eyes. Your entire perspective is shifting, and therefore you're finding yourself to be way more in control of your life. It's not because you're necessarily reading a lot of books or like going through a lot of knowledge expansion and doing a bunch of self-love courses or anything. It could very well just be a massive upheaval of everything you believed about yourself, about the world, about how everyone else has power and everyone else is worthy but you. And it truly feels like this is a major transition. Because to go from the king to Thanatos, that's massive. That's like going from the emperor to the death card in one fell swoop. So this is a major transition, but let's take a look at the advice that you have. So like I said, you guys actually got 2 of each type of oracle card. So I'm going to have to figure out a way to place these without making it too messy. But for these cards, for the Work Your Light Oracle deck, I have thought that these might show us the energy that you're being called to embody for this transit to be as smooth and powerful as possible. So you guys have no, wait, postpone, say no, and mirror. Who or what is triggering you? Okay. You might find that in these 5 months, you might receive an offer that on the surface seems perfect and it seems like everything you've been hoping for, but deep down something in your soul kind of tells you this is not it. Like, say for instance, and this is an example, it doesn't have to be true, but say for instance, a couple have been together for like 12 years and they've pretty much, it's a common law marriage. And then one person proposes to the other eventually, and the other person wants to say yes because it should be obvious. We've spent so much time together. We know everything about each other. We've seen several versions of each other. And yet something deep inside their soul says, no, this is not right. Now, I'm not saying you might get proposed to and you might feel like saying no. What I'm saying is there might be situations where you find that what resonated for you in the past may bring opportunities to stay in that same energy, right? You might get offers that would help you be comfortable in the energy that you're coming into this transit with. So in this sort of energy. But you might find through this transformative process, through this expansion process even, that a lot of these things sort of trigger you and trigger a lot of new growth in you. A great example, and I know this is silly, well, it's not silly, but it kind of feels silly in the context of all of this. But so I have a plant, right? It's a string of hearts and it wasn't doing too hot. And so I was hoping to root it and sort of make it bushier and make it grow more branches. It was just a single string and I managed to get roots on two separate ends of it. And I realized the only way to get it to grow more branches, more leaves from the nodes that are between the two ends is to cut it off in the middle. And by creating that chasm between the two ends of that one string, I now have 4 separate plants growing, right? So something like that, you might find that the death moment that we're seeing here with the Thanatos card, it will create that chasm between your old self and the self that you are becoming. And it might seem difficult to let go of this opportunity, which at one point would have been absolutely perfect. And at one point would have been something you begged for even, to sort of watch it slip away because it no longer resonates with you. But that you need that trigger to understand that if it no longer resonates for you, then taking that opportunity would not have made your life any better, would not have made you any happier. It would have kept you in the same place, but it seems like you're no longer sort of, you no longer fit in that tight a spot. You're no longer there to stay in that small little box when really you could have a mansion, you know? And therefore, whatever opportunity does come your way, it feels like you're gonna want to say yes, but deep down, you know that it really isn't for you. And that might trigger a lot in you. And in fact, that might be the moment when you look at life around you and realize that all of this is triggering change. None of this works for me anymore. None of this resonates with my deepest truth. And therefore, I need to step away and embody this energy. All right, so finally, let's take a look at some advice from spirit, from the universe. We have the chameleon spirit, act as if. I really hope this is focusing properly. And we have, I'm just going to put these here. And that's number 14, which reduces to 5, which is the number of change. And we have the brown bear spirit, take time out. I might read little bits from both of these because it feels like they both have very important messages for you today. So chameleon spirit, number 14, act as if. Chameleon spirit shares her gift with you today to prepare you for changes that will greatly benefit you. Outer conditions are changing and you're required to come into harmony with them so you can co-create your greatest dream. Feeling sensitive? Good, because that will come in handy, enabling you to determine how best to adapt to your environment and the people in it, while at the same time maintaining your integrity and inner equilibrium. that is exactly what this reading has been saying. You're able to find a difference between the chaos around you and the chaos within you. And you're able to find some sort of balance with this justice card here, especially. And the brown bear spirit, and number 9, take time out. There is a time to act and a time to focus your attention on patient strategizing. The arrival of brown bear spirit signals that you are best served by foregoing hard work towards your goals at this moment and instead taking the time out to meditate or just take a nap so you can refresh yourself and begin planning what you want to co-create next. How might you become the person you wish to be and experience whatever your heart desires? Insights will arise as you explore the possibilities and begin envisioning your plan. Relax so you can recharge. The call for action will come later. So I definitely think that the advice here is that there is great change coming. And instead of resisting it or trying to plan how you will, figure it out after the dust settles or any of that, right now you're really being called to just take a step back and watch things unfold and just let it flow. You're not required to take any action until you've worked through this death moment and reinvented yourself. Until that point, you're very much being called to sit tight and allow life to bring you to this place where you're able to take control of it. Very interesting reading, Pile 1, but that's your message for today. I really hope it resonated and that it brought you some clarity. If it did, please remember to like, comment, subscribe, do all that cool stuff. It really helps the channel out a lot. If you like what I do and would like to support my work, there is a link to my PayPal tip jar down in the description, and I would super appreciate your support. You can always subscribe to my channel for more readings. Thank you so much for being here and spending some time with me and letting me do this reading for you. I truly hope it helped. Stick around to the outro for another reading on my channel, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye. Pile number 2, hello, welcome. So if you guys picked the little opalite moon, then this is your reading all about which area of your life is going through an expansion due to this Jupiter transit. So the way I've shuffled these cards out is that this half of the reading will tell us which area of your life is going through this expansion. And this card here particularly will tell us what energy you're embodying coming into this. And then this half of the reading will tell us the outcome of this expansion, what is going to happen essentially as a result of this expansion, and what energy you will be embodying by the end of it. And then we'll take a look at some advice from the universe, spirit, all of it. Okay, so without much further ado, I have to mention that your cards sort of gave me the feeling when I was shuffling. Initially, it wasn't too crazy, but then towards the end, they started coming out in the exact numbers that I needed, like especially the tarot cards. When I needed 2, they came out like in 2s perfectly. So that was interesting. You might find that your life goes from being pretty meh to being quite organized and, but let's take a look. Which area is expanding? So we have the 6 of Cups. Beautiful. And that is clarified by the 10 of Wands. Okay, interesting. So, okay. Couple ways this could be interpreted. You might be coming into this transit with an energy of almost feeling burdened by the connections in your life. In that you might be surrounded by so many people and so many responsibilities that it almost feels exhausting, and you're pretty much at the end of the line, really. It's like you cannot physically take any more. Or actually, I'm getting an alternative understanding of this as well, where the Six of Cups talks about someone who's quite generous, someone who brings you a lot of love and kindness for no reason other than your familiar, your family, And to you, for whatever reason, that might feel like a burden. It might almost feel like sort of unfair, because you might feel like you don't really have much to give to these people who are so generous towards you. What else? You might find, okay, this is very, very specific, so only take it if it resonates, okay? You might find that lately you've been feeling called to do a lot of ancestral healing, or you might have noticed that you're here to break a lot of toxic ancestral cycles and patterns, and that might feel like a massive burden. Or even more specifically, you might be finding that you're able to see or connect with spirits that have passed on, and it is a lot of work, and you're almost like, I didn't ask for this. I'm really not enjoying this. The idea of communicating with departed souls who usually carry so much pain if they're still around. Bottom line is, it's exhausting. Part 2. And I don't blame you for feeling the way that you feel, because this work, whatever this work is, whatever resonates for you, seems just so demanding of your time and your energy. And it's almost like you're having to pour from an empty cup. But even then, it's almost like, really, no one's asking you to pour from anything. It is just an internal thought pattern that's causing you to feel so drained and, exhausted and all of that. So, interesting. Next, we have Temperance in reverse, clarified by the Lovers. Okay, that's funny, because that's the Sagittarius card and that's the Gemini card. Jupiter rules Sagittarius. Jupiter is going into Gemini. Anyway, so both of these are major arcana, and yeah, it does feel like this has to do with your relationships, in the sense of there is imbalance, or there is perceived imbalance, right? So in your mind, because Jupiter is quite a mental energy, it's quite, a lot of wisdom. It's not quite as mentally driven as Mercury is, but it does have to do with a lot of wisdom and growth and expansion and that kind of thing, which can often be in our mind a lot. It does feel like you might have a different understanding of the situation than the objective truth. So in your mind, these connections, these people who are reaching out to you, who are offering you support, or who are asking for your assistance and all of that, in your mind, that might feel like a burden that you can no longer carry because it's exhausting. Whereas the truth is, these are opportunities to experience and express love, to experience kinship with people. That's the word. Where it almost feels like you may label all relationships as work. You might see connections as transactional a lot. If you do, hello, same. I've done that for a lot of my life as well, so no judgment here. But you might see that as you go through this transit, what's happening is you're growing into a person that's able to see love as infinite and unconditional, as opposed to very transactional relationships and very tit for tat type of love, very conditional love. And that's going to require you to let go of this idea of everything needs to be perfectly balanced, all the stuff that I receive has to be equal in quantity to the stuff that I give, and vice versa. And you might find that that's something that is healing for you through this Jupiter transit. So what energy are you coming into this cycle with, Pile 2? We have the Warrior. Are we surprised? Are we surprised at all? It's a beautiful card though. And that's number 10, which again, 10. Lots of mirroring. 6, 6. Interesting. So, the Warrior is number 10. The samurai, the soldier, the advocate. We often envision the warrior as an armored figure with sword in hand, moving blindly towards battle. Yet the deeper aspects of this archetype bring us face to face with death itself. The warrior's work requires presence, alignment, and purpose. If and when the warrior loses its center, meaningless confrontations and violence are the default response. When this card appears, it is important to question the battle at hand. It is likely a great one with deep roots and long-standing tensions. The actions you take will stay with you long after the dust settles, so choose wisely, brave one. When light, fierce clarity, purposeful action, resolve, resilience. When dark, threats, savagery, abandoning mission and values. Yeah, it does feel like when you step into this period, this 5-month period of this transit, you might be stepping in with an energy of having your guard very, very high up, where you look at connections around you as if they will inevitably hurt you, as if I better not invest emotionally because I know that invariably, whether I like it or not, people are going to disappoint me, people are going to hurt me, people are going to purposefully destroy me, and therefore I will be on guard at all times. But the irony is, you look at these connections as imbalanced only because you're looking at them as imbalanced. There is great potential to find balance, that Gemini twin energy of mirroring. There is great potential in every connection around you already to be just as beneficial for you as they are to everyone else, if you simply, pardon the crassness of this, but if you simply take that chip off your shoulder, Paul, too. I know it's a harsh thing to say, and I do apologize, but that's just how it's coming through. Where you might find that you assume the worst about people due to previous experiences with bad people. And this transit is coming into your life to really open your mind about connection, about the very core of humanity, which is love, which is kindness, generosity, unconditional sense of community. So I do think that the area of your life that's expanding during this transit, part 2, is your relationships, all of your relationships. So now that we know this, let's take a look at the outcome of this transit for you, part 2. First, we have the Hermit in reverse. Well, would you look at that? And that is clarified by the Queen of Wands. Beautiful. Okay, Major Arcana and a court card. You'll love to see it. So the Hermit in reverse is pretty obvious, where you're starting to almost recognize that your inner world, the way it is right now, is quite limited, in that it is currently, well, at the start of this, has been built upon very limited ways of thinking. I keep wanting to say the word prejudice, so take that how it resonates. You may make assumptions about people for no reason other than your previous experience with other people. That's a kind of prejudice, isn't it? And that was a loud horn. All right. Yeah. Okay. I feel like I hit the nail on the head with that one. But you might find that moving forward, you're no longer sort of limiting yourself or your relationships to this idea of there is only safety in solitude. There is only happiness when I am alone. You're sort of turning away from your very biased inner world and looking outwards with optimism, because the Queen of Wands is someone who, she goes where her heart will bring her. She will follow joy. That's what it is. Like, do you see the sunflower she's holding? Isn't that gorgeous? I've been surrounded by sunflowers lately, just as a side note. I love them, beautiful. And to me, they always signify optimism and excitement and happiness. And the Queen of Wands is essentially, I want to say, the life of the party, really. She is the woman who, when you, like, she will host a party for no reason other than she wanted to bring her friend groups together. You might find that you bring your friend groups together a lot moving forward. You might find that you've managed to step into two very distinctive friend groups, and you're the common link between them. And you might merge two groups together to make one big group. I don't know why that's coming through, but it is. So here we are. But yeah, you're very much stepping away from this energy of solitary confinement that you've put yourself into. Like, very clearly, it's not that, yes, external circumstances may have been tough in the past. However, it almost feels like you've held on to that burden for so long, and that has clouded your judgment of love in whatever context that may be. Whereas the truth is, there is love out there that is worthy of you, but you've been almost afraid of letting it in. But through this Jupiter transit, you're sort of seeing almost a denial of that thought pattern. It's like you're willfully shifting your inner monologue and learning to see the world through a lens of best possible outcome, best case scenario, rather than worst case scenario, as you have been so far. So next we have, sorry, my screen keeps like going off to extend the recording time, which is great. We love that, but I have to keep like tapping it every time to make sure that I focus on the cards. Again, I don't know why I'm telling you all these things. Like, you guys seem so easy to talk to. Don't take that the wrong way and like block me, because like I'm trying to be your friend. But we have the Queen of Swords in reverse. Yep. Not surprising at all. And we have the Tower. Interesting. Okay, the Queen of Swords in reverse. Not a surprise at all. The Queen of Swords is a character who does not have patience or grace for anyone's nonsense, right? Usually she is the kind to tell it how it is, to not mince words at all, to not sugarcoat anything. And if people aren't with it, she'll gladly cut them out. However, with her in reverse, given the context of everything we've heard, and this tower moment here, it feels like you're stepping away from that energy of being quite so cutthroat. It's like there's this tower moment, but it doesn't feel destructive to anything but your old thought patterns. Like, it doesn't feel like you're gonna uproot your life or anything like that. But it feels almost like you're going to just have like an aha moment of, whoa, is this what I've been thinking? Is this how I've been feeling this long? Is this why I feel this way? This is not serving me. Why am I holding on to this? Like, for whatever reason, the imagery on this card, it's almost feeling like the tower is unburdening itself of these people who are unwelcome. It's almost like, get rid of the vermin, and you might find that you find vermins in your thought patterns that aren't there to make you happy at all anymore. And you find that, one, you might be shocked at how long you've carried these difficult thought patterns for, and how isolated they've kept you because you had your guard up so high. And two, you'll find that you're able to have way more grace for people, way more kindness, way more space for people and their humanness. You're not quite so cutthroat, quite so judgmental anymore, because this is the Virgo card, I'm just saying. So, you might find that by the end of this transit, you will be in a place where people don't bother you so much, and relationships aren't transactional or unbalanced anymore. And you'll realize that it was never external, like the imbalance was never external. It was truly barriers that you put up to protect yourself from disappointment. And that is totally fair. We do things we do for self-preservation, and that's fine. However, we were not created to live in isolation, particularly emotionally. And as time goes by, you'll find that life is just easier with people to love. And life is just easier when you allow yourself to be loved. So what energy are you going to be embodying by the end of this transit? We have the siren. Isn't that crazy? Because sirens are these mythical creatures known for calling people towards them, for drawing attention, for bringing sailors to their death, but in a more esoteric sense, it's the energy of the hostess, of that Queen of Wands. That's the energy I get from sirens. The temptress, the seducer, the femme fatale. When the siren calls, the world spins. What we thought we wanted pales in comparison to the sweet allure of her song. We find ourselves lost in a spell of desire and longing. Whether that thing calling to us is ultimately good or bad is somewhat irrelevant. It is the journey that matters. Following her song, we go down, down, down to a place where lessons are learned and courage must be rallied to find our way back to dry land. It's likely, though, that falling for her call is the only way we will come to live more fully on the surface. When light, awakened sensuality, absorption, arousal. When dark, wickedness, adultery, wreckage, betrayal, insatiability. Yeah, it might be that you're going from living in like the darker aspect of, constantly feeling a fear of betrayal, and stepping into the brighter aspects of the Siren card, which is that feeling of love, of taking that plunge, of taking a risk, and not being so obsessive about the outcome, because whether it's good or bad, you've learned to live way more than you had before you took the plunge. I feel like you're becoming a less cautious person, but in a good way. In the past, your boundaries, your walls rather, were so high up that it was almost like you were overly cautious, you know? And now you're almost throwing some of that caution to the wind, if not all of it, and just allowing the universe to bring people to you. Because that's what it is. It's not that the universe is only bringing you bad people. It's that you're not allowing the people that are brought to you, you're not allowing them in. So you'll never know if they are good or bad. And therefore your only experience so far of people is overwhelmingly bad. But that doesn't mean every single person that could potentially be in your life is also going to be bad, you know? And you're very much stepping into a time where you're finally allowing the universe to show you how good it gets with relationships, with connections to other human beings, or maybe even to other animals. You never know. But in either case, you're allowing love to draw you back in. And that is a beautiful feeling, Pal 2. So finally, let's take a look at some advice with these oracle cards. For this one, which is from the Work Your Light Oracle deck, I wanted to see what energy you're being called to embody in order to make this transit easier and more powerful. We have break the chain, ancestral patterns, healing, rewriting the future. Yep. So, whoa, that's crazy. Didn't I say at the beginning that you might be feeling called to break ancestral patterns? That's crazy. Whoa, okay. I've been reading for so long and it still surprises me when the messages match up like that. But yeah, you maybe, instead of focusing so much on this outcome, instead of focusing so much on letting your walls down and doing it all consciously, you're definitely being called to look more into breaking ancestral patterns and doing a lot of ancestor healing. You might be called to meditate, connect to ancestral entities potentially, or just spending some time in like an ancestral space, somewhere your people come from, where they've lived and their energy still roams the earth in whatever way. And perhaps there's also answers there about why you feel the need to isolate so much and why you feel the fear of being taken advantage of. This could be a cycle you've come here to break, potentially. If you look back at your ancestors, you might find that a lot of them had very similar behavior patterns as well, of being afraid to be loved, afraid of being vulnerable. And you'll notice that passing down through the generations, because all of our behaviors are taught to us, right? So maybe someone modeled to you that relationships are unsafe, and therefore you've held that belief. You've forgotten where it comes from, but you've held that as your truth. And in recognizing and understanding and breaking that cycle, you might find that it's much easier to step into this aspect where you're a lot more optimistic, a lot less cutthroat, a lot less isolated, and just a lot more forgiving of yourself and of people for their humanness, you know? And rewriting the future, you might have envisioned a certain outcome for your life, and that has been very much clouded by this fear of being loved, of being seen, of being accepted for who you are. And because your paradigm is about to shift, you guys, that's so crazy. Hang on. I need to make sure you see this. Look, that's Jupiter in this card. That's the only like distinctive planet. Whoa. Okay, wow. I'm shook. I know that's a dated expression, but I truly am. But yeah, that's wow. Yeah, there's definitely some serious like ancestral healing going on for you in these next 5 months. But let's take a look at advice. We have the Seahorse Spirit in reverse. Watch and wait. This is the first time this card has come out for me, actually. I've had this deck for like a year now. Let's see. The Seahorse Spirit, number 53, if that means anything to you. Could be an age, could be a birthday, May the 3rd or the 5th of March. In reverse, Seahorse Spirit. Okay, wow. Are you holding on to judgment, sure that your perspective is the only correct way to look at things? There are as many perspectives as there are creatures in the sea, and when Seahorse Spirit appears, you are reminded to detach from the experience so you can view it from more than one angle. Pay attention to your hidden beliefs and how they affect the way that you think, feel, and act. Are you being fair to all involved, or do you need to step back? Perhaps the drama you've been drawn into is your own. Whatever the actions of others, your challenge is to be non-reactive and not take their words or behaviors personally. Their turbulence may have little to do with you, so remain neutral until you know more. Your perspective may be quite different in time. I mean, yeah, yeah, that was like straight up just confirmation for us. Like a lot of the ways in which you feel about other people are clouded by judgments that come from previous experiences, and that is completely fair. That's why we have experiences, and that's why we have an ego to protect us, so that we don't go through that again. With that said, applying that to situations that we know nothing about or don't know enough about is at best limiting, and at worst denying ourselves so much potential joy. So yeah, part 2. Whoa, my candle is leaking. All right, I need to end this reading really quick. So okay, that's crazy. All right, sorry about that. So yeah, I'm going to have to deal with that. So I'm going to end the reading there, pal 2. Thank you so much for being here and for letting me do this reading for you. If it resonated and brought you some clarity and support, then please remember to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Comment below how this resonated for you. If you like what I do and would like to support it further, then you can always check out my PayPal tip jar. The link to that is in the description. And yeah, thank you so much for spending some time. I'm so sorry, I'm so distracted by this candle. This is my first time using these. I don't know what's happened. But thank you so much for spending some time with me today and letting me do this reading for you. And I really hope it helped. You can stick around to the outro for another reading on my channel, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye. Hey pile 3, welcome to your reading about what is expanding for you through this Jupiter transit. So if you guys picked the citrine rock, then this is your reading. And also the candle's a little different because it melted through the bottom and got wax everywhere. So I've had to put it in a shot glass. So hopefully, fingers crossed, it will be okay now that we have this. But regardless, let's dive in. So the way I've arranged this is that this half of the reading, these cards will tell us what area of your life is going through an expansion due to this Jupiter transit, as well as what energy you're coming into the transit with. And then this half will tell us the outcome of this transit and what energy you will embody when you have worked through this expansion. And then finally, we'll take some advice from these oracle cards. So let's just dive right in. Let's just get right in. Which area of your life is going through a big expansion due to this Jupiter transit? We have the Seven of Wands in reverse, and that is clarified by the Queen of Cups in reverse. Okay. Pile 3. Are you all work and no play? Are you the kind to just keep your head down and get your work done and not make the time to enjoy anything? Is that you? Am I calling you out a little bit right now? Maybe I am. But it feels like the area of your life that's going to, I keep wanting to say undergo transformation rather than expansion. So that just may be the case, is this idea of the Seven of Wands energy is someone who will work hard to maintain their lifestyle. This is a person who will do whatever it takes to enjoy where they are, but in the sense of, I enjoy it, so I defend it, but in defending it, I no longer have the time or the place to actually enjoy the things that make me happy. Does that make sense? So it's almost like this sense of being so preoccupied in maintaining the status quo that you're not able to enjoy the status quo. And to have that in reverse clarified by the Queen of Cups in reverse, it's kind of giving me this sense of keeping your joy sheltered, keeping your happiness, your emotions quiet, and refusing to share them with anyone, and therefore making your difficulties twice as hard. Because shared joy is twice the joy, shared pain is half the pain. And if you're someone who has to deal with a lot of emotional turmoil, a lot of emotional pain, keeping it within yourself is not really doing you any benefit. And this Jupiter transit might be taking you through the motions of opening up, truly. Because the Queen of Cups is the only card in the suit of cups where the cup is closed. It has a lid on it. And so to have that in reverse kind of tells me that you're finally getting to a place where you can let your feelings out. You can let them breathe a little bit. And you realize that you don't have to work all alone, all by yourself. That there are people out there who will help, who will support you, and you just don't have to do it all alone. So, next we have well. The Queen of Cups in reverse, again, from a whole different deck that I have shuffled millions of times, probably. And to clarify that, we have the Two of Pentacles. Okay. So there is very much a huge message about letting your emotions out, because it is no longer serving you to keep them bottled in. Pile 3, whether you want to hear that or not, that's what's coming through. And with the Two of Pentacles, it's like you need to find balance between, yes, working hard to enjoy the life that you enjoy, to have the things that you love, and also actually enjoying the life that you have, enjoying the things that you love. Because you can spend all the time in the world working hard to maintain where you are, but what's the point if you don't really get to relish where you are? you know? And the other thing is, you might very much be the kind to hide your feelings, mostly because you're a little afraid of the intensity of them. And that is completely fair because you may, at a very early age, have expressed intense emotions and then been told, hey, whoa, that's too much, you need to dial it back. And instead of being taught how to find balance with your feelings may have been shunned and been minimized, and you may have been ostracized for feeling the things that you feel. And it's hurtful. Absolutely, it's hurtful. But now, as a grown adult, hopefully, I only have grown adults watching these. As a grown adult, it's up to you to teach yourself how to find balance with your big emotions. And in order to get there, you first need to release. You need to be able to understand both extremes of it in order to figure out where the middle point is. Like, I could give you a piece of string and be like, tell me the middle point of it. But unless I give you the actual length of how long the string is, of how far it goes, you won't be able to tell me where the middle point, where the point of balance is, right? If I just give you an infinite string of wool and be like, find me the middle point, you'd be like, well, where does it end? So I know that I'm halfway there, So you've so far experienced, at least consciously as an adult, as far as you can remember potentially, you've experienced shunning your feelings away. And through this transit, you might be working towards balanced emotions, but in order to feel that, you then need to find the other end of the spectrum. You need to find what it feels like when your emotions are at their most intense. Because then when you have point A and point B, you can find a 0.5, what's halfway between A and B. What is balanced emotions? And that might be the part of your life that is going through transformation. Again, for the other two groups, I was fine saying expansion, but for you guys, for whatever reason, transformation is what's coming through. You might have quite heavy Scorpio placements, by the way. I don't know, like this queen being underwater with her feelings all hidden. It just gives me Scorpio. So you might have Scorpio. And that scorpionic energy is quite secretive as is, especially with their emotions, but they also have very, very deep, very intense emotions as well. So if you do have Scorpio placements, that makes perfect sense. But even if you don't, that might be the energy you're embodying right now, is that secretive depth of emotion that you refuse to let out. And that may be what you're working through this Jupiter transit. So let's take a look at the energy you're embodying as you step into this transit. We have the Mask in reverse. See, the cards don't mess around, bro. They will tell you. It's like you've been masking all these emotions. I don't even know why I explained these. I should just lay the cards out and see what happens, But the Mask is number 61, if my Romans serve me right. I'm going to start saying that for this deck, if my Romans serve me right. The mask, the persona, the performance, the reveal. We often think of a mask as something that conceals our identity, yet contemplate the possibility that the mask permits our true identity to be revealed. It allows. The mask gives voice to that which was previously rejected. When this card appears, enact the side of you that is seeking expression, yet was never given a role to play on the stage of your life. You are taking part in the ritual of expanding the self. It's likely you've become so attached to a single mask that you need to fall face forward into this perception bending time. Trust it. When light reveals what has been suppressed, when dark further conceals what is rejected. Yeah, it does feel like you might come from a history of having your feelings invalidated, having your feelings rejected, having their intensity rejected and shunned away. And now is a time to let all of that fall off and to really sit with these big feelings, to really sit with these emotions and allow them to consume you, so you know what it's like to go to the other extreme and then find balance in between. Because you can't just go straight to balance. Balance requires tipping the scales a little bit on either side to see how you reach equilibrium, right? So I do feel this Jupiter transit is bringing you to a state of emotional balance, but in order to get there, step one is likely going to be a big emotional release. So now let's take a look at what the outcome of this transit is going to be for you, pile 3. So first we have the 9 of Wands in reverse, clarified by the King of Pentacles in reverse. So this is actually giving me a good vibe, and let me explain. So usually the 9 of Wands is someone who is faced with a problem but is fully capable of dealing with that problem but doesn't understand that they are. And the King of Pentacles is someone with the ultimate financial stability, the ultimate wealth and, abundance and all of that. However, here's the nuance to it. The 9 of Wands is someone who doesn't recognize their own power, is someone who is terrified by what the world around them tells them about themselves. She is fully capable of ignoring these skulls that are on fire and this scary forest scene if she just closed her eyes and went inwards, but she doesn't recognize that. The King of Pentacles, though surrounded by abundance, is quite a static, fixed figure. Yes, he is reliable because he will not change or transform any further. So to have both of these in reverse kind of tells me that you're getting into an energy at the end of this transit where not only do you recognize your power, not only do you realize that, yes, the world around might look scary if I look at it from a lens of fear, but I can always close my eyes and look inwards and I'll be fine. And you're no longer settling for where you are. You're no longer saying that this is my final form and I'm not going to grow any further and thank you very much, I'm happy where I am and I refuse to be anyone beyond this point. And I think the two are very much interconnected in that recognizing your power shows you that a lot of your power lies in this transit, in this process of evolving, of finding that balance and exploring how far you can go in any given direction. And when you're able to allow yourself that sense of exploration is when evolution happens. And the King of Pentacles, understandably, he's the king. The court cards do not evolve past the king stage. But say if there was like a stage ahead of, like, beyond the king. The king is such a static figure, especially with the pentacles, which is the earth energy, which is the slowest moving of them all. This is Taurus energy. Taurus is fixed earth, which is like fixed. Taurus does not move. And therefore, a lot of the times, it will perish where it lays. And so to have this in reverse in this context is actually a really good sign, because you are no longer sitting with your current situation and telling yourself that that's good enough for you. You are no longer allowing your present to be as far as you'll go. And that's beautiful, pile 3, because you might find that until this point, you genuinely thought it was too late to change. And now you're learning that it really isn't. It really isn't too late to change. There is always opportunity to learn and grow and evolve. And you're finally giving yourself the permission to do it. My candle has hit rock bottom. I'm just gonna blow it out real quick. Okay, wow. That was a single-use candle. That's crazy. Okay. It's a good thing I got a 4-pack though. So, yeah, sorry about that, you guys. Anyway, next we have, I keep having to tap my screen because it goes to standby while it's recording. Next we have the 5 of Swords, and that is clarified by the 5 of Wands in reverse. Beautiful. So both of these are conflict cards. All right. Both of these talk about fights, arguments, differences, opinion, blah, blah, blah. The difference is the Swords version of it is upright. The Wands is in reverse. And that tells me that you'll be in a position moving forward where should conflict arise, and conflict is just part of nature, it's just part of life. So inevitably you will probably face conflict of some sort at some point in your life. Should it arise though, you're able to approach it from a logical perspective rather than a perspective of blind passion, which you may have done in the past with the 7 of Wands here, where, you've almost doggedly fought a battle that you really didn't need to fight that hard, simply because you didn't want to stop and think about the idea that this conflict might change you. Does that make sense? Because every conflict transforms who we are if we approach it from a mindful position, right? Every conflict has the opportunity to make us a better version of ourselves if we allow it to, if we approach it from a healthy place. And in order to do that, it requires a lot of emotional detachment. And that's the energy you're stepping into when it comes to conflicts moving forward. You might find that your life has been colored with a lot of conflict, and that might be the reason why you've forced yourself into emotional inertness, like inert gases that don't react. You may have forced yourself into that state with your emotions purely because you're afraid of the outcome should the emotions get involved. But there is a big difference between shunning your emotions and being emotionally detached. Because shunning your emotions means you do not even consider them, whereas emotional detachment is recognizing your emotions but not allowing them to steer the ship. Does that make sense? So avoiding your emotions means you're just locking them in a room like a naughty teenager and being like, stand in the corner, think about what you've done. And what's going to happen? That child is going to fester with those emotions. And the next time it comes out, it's going to be an outburst. It's going to be an eruption. Whereas acknowledging an emotion, processing it, and not allowing it to control your response is a whole other story, because now instead of locking your teenager away, you're having a talk with them. And if you need to go take care of something, you can be like, hold on, why don't you, sit with this, figure out what's going on while I go take care of business. It's a whole other way to approach it. And that's the energy you're stepping into. So, what energy are you going to be embodying by the end of this? We have Gnosis. I don't know which way up this goes. I think it's this way. But these last few cards are like in this deck. They don't like the name of it doesn't tell you which way is up. It might be this way. I don't know. I'm just gonna read both meanings for the upright and the reverse. So this is a 75. Gnosis, innermost knowing, mystic truths. True knowledge is not found in facts and figures in scholarly books on library shelves. Rather, Gnosis points to the deep and timeless archetypal wisdom that rises from the felt experience of having touched the unknown with every one of the senses. Those who are drawn to Gnosis find themselves in esoteric studies, likely involving mysticism, alchemy, healing, or perhaps science. Knowing is their calling, not knowing is their job description. No matter how far the alchemists take their studies, they come to the ultimate conclusion that facts slip towards mystery, and soon the mystery results in facts. This card signifies a knowing that is life-changing. Once you experience it, you are forever changed and become a guardian of Gnosis. The eternal mystery is calling you. Study your passion in the deepest way available to you. When light, contemplating the mystery, unanswerable questions. When dark, over-intellectualizing and literalizing, asking others. Interesting. So once you've found this emotional balance, you'll find that you're stepping into a time of wanting to learn, wanting to grow, wanting to evolve beyond this static energy. And do you see what's interesting about these two cards? You're going from this, where the colors and the black and white are completely split in two different ways. You're going from this state to this state, where they wrap around each other. Both these states of being still exist, but here they live in harmony with one another. And this could be like a great metaphor for the emotional thing that we just spoke about, of where you're shunning it from no emotions to extremely intense emotions, and you're going towards a place where you allow your emotions to be expressed in healthy ways, in balanced ways, in ways in which they get to say their piece but not disturb the peace, you know? And that is a beautiful transformation, Palfrey. Absolutely incredible. So finally, let's take a look at some advice for you. So the way I shuffled these was this Work Your Light Oracle card is going to tell us what energy you can embody in order to make this process smooth and powerful and easier on you, quite frankly. So we have Mintaken, longing for home, belonging, the original light workers. All right. What energy should you embody in order to make this transit easier? You might want to work on reminding yourself over and over again that your emotions deserve space. How you feel deserves space in this world. You're not the only person ever to have feelings. You're not the only person ever to have intense feelings. And just because you were told that your feelings were too much for one person to handle doesn't mean that no one can handle them. It just means that that person didn't have enough space to hold you. I think embodying a sense of belonging, as in your feelings are very much valid and very much a part of creation, like everyone else's are. Your feelings belong to this space, to this time, as much as everyone else's do. and creating this sense of home within yourself, creating a safe space within yourself, and also maybe like physically a safe space where you feel like you can express your truth and just, express your feelings. If you need a cry, a space where you can safely cry. If you need some self-care rituals, a place where you can safely perform self-care rituals. Whatever the case may be, it's like you're being called to create creature comforts that will hold you through this process of emotional upheaval and finding balance. But most importantly, you're very much being called to embody this idea of everything about you that is deeply human is welcome, is necessary, is important to this planet. And any experience that has told you otherwise does not deserve to live in your head rent-free from this point forward, because you've learned all your lessons. Right now, it's just redundant. It's just like sitting down and reading your ABCs over and over again when you've fully graduated college, And finally, let's take a look at advice for you from the Animal Spirit Guide deck. Canary Spirit, sing your own song. Beautiful. This card is all about expression, and this is number 12, if that means anything to you. Hopefully it's not your age, because it opened pretty much directly to the right page. Okay. Canary Spirit, sing your own song. Canary Spirit arrives to help you find your authentic voice and express what is in your heart. Free yourself to experience your inner light and let it shine as Canary Spirit sings to remind you of your inherent joy and to support you as you sing your own song. Now is the time to let the world know who you really are. Canary Spirit's message is that you are free to be yourself and express your most cherished desires. The world wants to hear your song. If your inquiry is about a relationship, you're being called to fully be yourself, for only then will you find harmony and joy. You can make music with others so beautifully when your note rings true. Yeah. Pile 3, this is very much going to be a time of first self-acceptance, complete and unconditional self-acceptance, and then self-expression. And when you get to this point, it's going to be like night and day. Who you were when this started versus who you are towards the end of this Jupiter transit is going to be huge. It's going to be huge. Your entire way of looking at yourself is going to go from this very restricted, constricted, quiet little mouse to this tiger that roars and isn't afraid of anything because it knows its own power. That is incredible, Pile 3. So that's your message for today. Very powerful. I hope it brought you some support and clarity. And if it did, then please remember to like and comment and subscribe to my channel. If you like what I do and would like to support it, then there is a link to my PayPal tip jar in the description. And I super appreciate your support. But yeah, thank you so much for being here and spending some time with me and letting me read for you. I truly hope it brought you some support and clarity. And you can stick around to the outro just after this for another reading on my channel. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye.